Tobago, welcome to PSA TV. This is the Wake Up Call. I'm Avalon Williams. We do apologize for the late show this morning, but we had a few difficulties here in studio this morning. On phone with us, we have Mr. Michael Annisette. He is the General Secretary of NATUC and also the President of SWWTU. Good morning, Mr. Annisette.
Yeah, pleasant morning to you,
How
and the listening public.
How are you today?
Well, I'm surviving, as I will say, in this mad world of politics.
Yeah, I know there's a lot going on at the port this morning and over the weekend. Could you brief us on what's happening there with the employees?
All right, well, basically it has to do with the sea bridge in the first instance. And just let me develop on that. There's a situation where the public may be fully aware where the government unilaterally took the decision to take the operations of the sea bridge out of the hands of the Port Authority and assign that operations and management of the vessel to NATUC. The impact of that means that all the vessels that are coming now will be managed by NATUC, and there are implications that flows from that. And what is the implication? It means that the Port Authority, who has crews, ratings, and officers, will be affected by that, and by extension, the workers are in no man's land in terms of their job security and their employment. Because one has to remember and one must recall that the issue of the GSS was set up more than 100 years ago, for the Port Authority to manage and to run the service from Trinidad and Tobago. As a matter of fact, that is under the Port Authority Act, where it is mandated. So it is a matter of what I want to call a legislative creature, and the decision by cabinet to just with a stroke of a pen say, well, the port is not going to manage the operations and NATUC is going to run it, is, in our view in the SWWTU, a clear attempt by this government and the minister in particularly, who's responsible for the port, to marginalize and undermine the SWWTU. So then I am to meet with a group of workers from the ferry service who works on the ferry service today at 11 o'clock, because they would have expressed their concerns over the fact that nobody is talking to them in terms of job security, in terms of what is happening. The express is sold and they are on the express and no one is telling them anything. And I mean, it is so insensitive that in this modern time, that decisions are being taken and the union that represent the workers are not being involved in the process or not being advised whatsoever in the context of how their members are going to be affected, or how the Port Authority as the employer will be affected by the decisions that are being made by the government.
Mr. Annisette, so the fact that their union is not representing them, does this mean that NATUC is going to be representing the workers at the Port Authority?
No. Well, it's not that the union is not representing the workers. The point I want to make, that the government, and this minister in particularly, has taken a conscious decision not to engage the SWWTU in any discussions. It's not that because we have recognition and certification on behalf of those groups of workers. The point that I want to make, and I want to re-emphasize, the act of taking away the service of the new vessels that are coming here from the Port Authority and putting it into the hands of NATUC is a classical case of trying to undermine and sidestep the responsibilities of engaging the union in discussions for operations on the sea bridge.
How are the employees coping with outstanding monies that are owed to them, though? I know that has been an ongoing issue.
Yeah, well then, this is an ongoing issue. NATUC would have taken up that particular issue. We would have raised it about 5 times. We would have brought it to NTAC. We would have brought it to the attention of the Minister of Finance. And to date, we have not had any resolution. The issue is that there are outstanding monies being owed to port workers for the year 2014 to 2017, where the union, the management, and the board of Port Authority sat down and negotiated a mutually agreed wage increase for the workers in the port.
Right.
And to date, the government have not yet released the monies so that the wages could be implemented, one, and two, the back pay can be paid. And as I speak to you, I mean, it is basic economics that if you fail to implement the wage increases that is due from since 2014, three things happen. One, workers are working on 2014 salaries in 2019. Two, that if you fail to implement the increases, the back pay is going to increase. And three, it will create a serious problem in a situation where the government is saying that money is a problem. And the question is why it is that you are not implementing the wage increases to stop the hemorrhage, because each day we fail to implement the wage increases is each day the back pay increases for the workers, and each day workers are frustrated on a daily basis. And it is clear in our minds that what is happening here is that this is a strategy by the government to marginalize and to pull down the port. In addition to the wages, there is some serious issues where the government the monies that is required to upgrade the port and put it in the context of best practice internationally. There are equipment that needs to be replaced if we have to be productive and efficient as a port, compete in the global market, and we do have to compete in the global market because the Port of Port of Spain is not in isolation of what is happening globally. And we view all these measures as an attempt by this government and this minister to pull down the port, to run it down another petrol train so that their friends and their financiers and their business partners can have the opportunity to now come in and take over the port. And we are paying particular attention to that strategy. We are regrouping. We are discussing the matter with NATUC. We are discussing the matter with our international federation, which is the ITF, and we will be making statements and taking action at the appropriate time. Like everything in life, everything is timing. And we are particularly watching the behavior of this minister in particular, who seems to have a dislike for the SWWTU and port workers for whatever reason. All right, he has said it privately, he has said it publicly, he has misrepresented the facts as it relates to the management and the port. The Prime Minister has said that we are the most corrupted state enterprise, and he has brought no evidence to support what he is saying. The Prime Minister would have said, if you remember, that the union is asking for the dredging at the port to accommodate the Galicia, and it will cost them $50 million a year, which was a misrepresentation. All we were saying as the union is that there is a need to do dredging in GSS, which has not been dredged for the last 20 years. And what we are seeing now with the arrival of the new vessel, which is on lease at an astronomical price to Trinidad and Tobago, the Jar de la Valette, they are now doing arm dredging. All right, which supported what we would have said 3 years ago. There is a need to do dredging in GSS. And these are some of the issues that we will be raising because we are doing our research with all the statements that has been made by the minister, all the statement that has been made by the Prime Minister, all the statement that has been made by Short Young to demonstrate that this statement was misleading and it was designed to put in the minds of the population thinking that will not support the port of Port of Spain, and which would have allowed them to form the narrative like they did with the Petrotrain to make the port available to their friends.
So what is the situation now with the workers at the Port Authority? Do you know?
All right, well, I will be meeting actually with a group of workers today at 11 o'clock.
Right.
All right, because they would have called over the weekend expressing the deep concerns. Unfortunately, the union was not in a position to say anything because the management or the minister have not even had the courtesy to extend to the union who represents the workers any kind of conversation or dialogue. And you know what is disturbing? Let me tell you what is disturbing. This government preaches social dialogue. This government preaches they want to put workers and people at the center of everything that they are doing. And when one looks at what the government is doing, you have to raise some fundamental questions in your mind, whether or not this is what we want for Trinidad and Tobago. And I continue to say that we have what I want to call misleaders who masquerade as leaders, and they are taking the country down an economic precipice that we will live to regret if people do not stand up on the altar of the truth. And I think that will be our responsibility as SWWTU and as NATUC. We need to stand up on the altar of truth, and we need to bring about the kind of thinking and the kind of ideas that will propel the country to the another level. We have a national tolerance, all right, for graft, for arrogance of power, for vindictiveness, all right, and mediocrity that is so disturbing that will pull back Trinidad and Tobago about 40 years backwards. And we need to speak to those issues and them. And these kinds of behavior that we are seeing, where this government believes they can do whatever they want without any regards to the people, without any regards to the people who will be affected by the decisions that they are making, is a politics that is not suited for the 21st century. There are no tin gods, none whatsoever. All right, and then therefore, that approach is not the approach that a country or a government that is serious about leadership will take. And we say in SWWTU that the issue in Trinidad and Tobago is about leadership. Because leadership is what drives a country to another level. And we are not seeing the kind of leadership that is necessary to take us where we need to go.
Just to recap there on leadership, I know the Prime Minister did make a statement where he said the labor movement, they need new leadership skills now.
No, well then, you see, let me tell you what has happened in this world. When you speak truth to power, when you confront the misrepresentations, when you confront the whole question of what I will want to call, and then I will say it, because people do not want to say it in Trinidad and Tobago. But there is a reality where ethnicity, tribalism, right, is part of our narrative, right, which works against our society, which works against our people, and which creates what I will want to call a pattern of ethnicity that is not in the best interest of Trinidad and Tobago. And when you speak against that, you are not the leader that they want. The leaders that they want is that whatever they say, you must shake your head like an inanimated object. You understand, like a piece of machinery. You must not have an independent thought. And independence of thinking is considered something that is not suited. I am going to tell the Prime Minister that you need to watch yourself in the mirror. You need to ask yourself certain questions. You need to ask yourself whether you are engaging with the people in Laventille, whether you're engaging with the people in Bologna, whether you are engaging with people in the trade union movement. You talk about the trade union movement, you talk about the new armed leadership, but under your regime, under your government, there hasn't been a member of the trade union movement that is on any government boards, save and except those boards where the law dictates and mandate that you must have a labor representative. But outside of that, this government has taken a conscious decision not to put any labor representative on boards where they represent workers. Is that leadership? Is that leadership? I ask the question because history has shown, and it started in America, it started in Germany, it is part of Singapore approach, it is part of the Jamaican approach, it is part of the Barbados approach now. Prime Minister Motley made that statement. When she took office, the first thing she did was call in the trade union movement because she understands the role that the trade union movement has to play in taking the economy and the country forward. But this government has disrespected, they have been insensitive, and they have disregarded the trade union movement, right? And you talk about leadership. Come on, Honorable Prime Minister. That narrative is not for me. We will confront you, and we will challenge you, and we will continue to challenge you. And if that is not the leadership that you want, so be it. But we have a responsibility to have an independent mind, because it is ideas which carries a country to another level. It's not being subservient to the wishes of any political party.
Thank you so much, Mr. Annisette. I'm going to ask you for your closing comment this morning.
Well, I will tell Trinidad and Tobago, I will tell the workers on the board that we have to have faith. We have to have faith, because I will remind them that the star is at its brightest when the night is at its darkest moment. And there is hope. If we collectively put our thoughts together and our wisdom together, if we put Trinidad and Tobago first, that we will find a resolution. We must start a new narrative. We must start to hold the politicians accountable. We must begin to understand that the politicians work for us, all right, and not we work for the politicians. And we must start to begin to understand that the narrative about tribalism, about race, about ethnicity, those kinds of conversation and narratives have no place in Trinidad and Tobago body politics, and therefore we need to hold the politicians to a higher standard, and all the leaders, all the institutions, including the trade union movement. I have no issue, but at the ending of the day, we must put Trinidad and Tobago first before any political party, before any trade union. Trinidad and Tobago, and what is best for Trinidad and Tobago must be a priority, and we must be part of that decision, what kind of Trinidad and Tobago that we want for our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Annisette.
Okay,
Do have a great day.
The pleasure is mine. Yeah. Bye-bye.
That was the General Secretary of NATUC and the President of SWWTU, Mr. Michael Annisette, talking about what's happening at the Port Authority in Port of Spain. So we're going to keep you posted on what's taking place there. I know he's supposed to meet with them tomorrow to engage in a meeting, and we will have the public updated on what's taking place. So we're going to toss a short break and come right back to the Wake Up Call here at PSA TV.